Hey guys, I thought I'd follow up today's conversation, actually follow up yesterday's conversation that we had about electric cars and the fact that the UK government has brought forward the deadline for banning petrol, diesel, and hybrid cars from, or the sales of those cars from 2035 instead of 2040. That's only 15 years away. And the idea being that they want to go to net zero emissions by 2050, so they're thinking that, well, if we ban the sale of new cars in 2040, that's only 10, there's still 10 years worth of cars that might still be on the road. So if we take it back to 15 years, then hopefully by that time people have moved into electric cars. That's all fine and good, and you can understand the logic of it. I mean, as a petrol head, it's always difficult, isn't it? Because we're immensely loyal to the car. We are, because we're so passionate about it, and it's such an important thing to us. And as a motoring journalist, it's a professional thing as well, isn't it? But at the same time, you have to look at the very clear effects on the environment that humanity is having, and you have to concede that, yeah, okay, we are heading, well, we're probably nearly in global disaster, and we need to do something about it. So, it's an important discussion to be had, but it's very interesting that there were a lot of commenting. I put my an article on this on browncarguy.com, and I also put it on my tribe on Drive Tribe. So Drive Tribe, just search for Brown Car Guy, and got a ton of comments there. Very, very interesting discussion going on. A lot of people were like, understandably very skeptical, and understandably saying, well, the government it's a knee-jerk reaction. They're just jumping to conclusions, and they haven't really thought this through. When ordinary people say that, that's one thing, but when some rather important people, or people that would know better or know very well what is actually going on, then it's worth considering. But let's face the reality of it. The problem is that the world's biggest polluters, the world's biggest polluter is burning fossil fuels. That is actually number one, followed by agriculture and farming is number two, and then emissions from factories and industry is number three. Now, so you have to accept that, well, transport is a huge part of that, an immense section of that burning fossil fuels. It's not the only bit, but it is a huge part of that burning fossil fuels is transport. But transport, don't forget, includes buses, lorries, trains, ships, and aeroplanes. Have you ever looked on Radar 24, that website, and then you can see the planes that are in the air at any one time? It's like a huge traffic jam up there. It's incredible. I mean, just if you have a chance, just look at it online. It's truly fascinating. But that's planes. Let's leave aside planes for a minute. An interesting fact that I learned yesterday, right? 40 of the world's largest cargo ships, just 40, and there's 3,500 ships, right? Cargo ships in the world. And what I read was just 40 of those pollute more than all of the world's cars. Like all of them, right? There's 800 million cars, and 40 ships, just 40 ships are polluting more than all of those cars. So like you and I changing our petrol car for electric cars, like, well, yes, that literally is a drop in the ocean, as they say. That's going to make a difference. Yeah, right. Of course, collectively, everything makes a difference. But I mean, that's the odds that we're up against, just as motorists and car owners. So cars are an easy scapegoat. This is the thing. And, like I said, you look at the cities and you accept that, well, you can visibly see the pollution in cities. We know for a fact that it's poisoned us, it's hurt our children. And, definitely in inner cities, I mean, I don't drive into London, to be fair, anymore myself, just because it's become too prohibitive, but also because I think there's just, it's just too many cars there anyway. I don't need to add to that problem. I live on the outskirts of London, I drive around London, but I don't go into central London. I can catch a tube train here and I can be in central London in 20 minutes. It's a 5-minute walk from here. So honestly, that's, even as a car guy, that's what I do. But the fact is that, the other thing to look at is that there's a lot of hate on the car. And again, going back to the whole thing about, have you consulted the car industry? The car industry has been making tremendous strides and technological achievements in the whole world of engineering. And car engines now are cleaner and more efficient than they've ever been. And I think that you couldn't necessarily say that about ships and airplanes, I suspect. I don't know about the engineering that goes into ships and airplanes, but I suspect particularly in ships that car engines are by and far way, way ahead of those in terms of how efficient and clean they are. A quick example, one thing that I learned was, for example, the latest diesel. Now we got a big, big downer on diesel engines, and because of Dieselgate and all of that, and because now we've learned that, well, we were sold this red herring of diesel a few years ago, about maybe a decade and a half ago. We were told diesel cars are the answer. Everybody should switch to diesel. We hated them. They were dirty. They were smelly. The black smoke was coming out, and governments were telling us, no, but diesel is the answer. So eventually, we all switched around, and the manufacturers got, yeah, we can't have smoke coming out of them. We got to make them better. We got to do them, have common rail technology and make them cleaner, more efficient, make them sound better. They've done all of that, and of course now everybody's like, oh no, diesels weren't good. But the latest diesel engine, right, Euro 6D temp, right, this diesel engine, they have tested it, and they found that not only is it the least polluting ever, but it actually cleans the air. It actually absorbs the particulates out of the air, so the air going into the engine is dirtier than the air coming out of it. Hang on a minute. So, I mean, are we talking about this enough? Are we thinking about this enough? Are we looking at other answers apart from just electric car? Now, again, talking to important people that know what they're talking about. Now, the boss of PSA, which is Carlos Tavares, and PSA, of course, is Peugeot, Citroën, DS, Opel, Vauxhall, and now they've, of course, teamed up with FCA, so that now also includes Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, what am I missing? Ferrari? So that's a huge chunk of the automobile industry there. There's a guy that knows what he's talking about, and he's saying, nobody's consulted us. We've got thousands upon thousands of very clever people, very clever engineers working on this problem, and he's worried about the pollution, the politicians, are they making the right decision? This is him quoting him kind of. He said, in 10 to 20 years, what if they figure out that was the wrong way, that was the wrong answer? The costs are going to be huge, because he points out that electric cars are very expensive to make. The raw materials for battery, the mining that goes into it, a huge amount of water. Look it up online, but it's incredible the amount of water that needs to go into lithium, into battery mining, to clean it, and then that water then has to be cleaned. So look at the energy that's going into just doing that. And of course, once all these batteries, lithium is coming from China, so it's all having to be shipped around the world. We're back to the shipping problem again, and those huge ships. So, we've got to look at the overall cost of electric cars. Forcing everybody to switch over to electric cars in a short frame of time, as he points out, it's going to be, because you're asking people to switch over. That means you want people to dump perfectly usable existing cars and buy new cars which have to be made, and then everything, the technology has to be made, and then they have to be shipped around the world so that you can buy them. They're more expensive, so you're spending more money. There has to be more power stations built and made, creating more problems, because now you need to power and charge all of those cars. You need to build more charging stations. You're creating more problem, and then the government will realize that they're not making enough money on fuel taxation. What are they going to do then? So it's a huge problem. So like he rightly says, what if it turns out that wasn't the answer, and we've spent all this money? So we need to look at other things. Hydrogen fuel cell cars. Why is nobody talking about them? That's a big solution. The only thing that comes out of the tailpipe of those is water that you can drink. It's incredible. There's an infrastructure issue. There's an issue of the technology, but it can be worked out. It may work out cheaper than this. Other things that amazed me recently. Diamond batteries. It reminds me of dilithium crystals. Now, this is great, because what they worked out is that they can take the waste from a nuclear power station, and that waste, by the way, radioactive for thousands of years, very expensive to store it and keep it safe. They can take the graphite blocks that are used in that, take the top part of it, which are radioactive, compress them and turn them into diamonds, which turn into little electric batteries, which basically can last forever, because they got 5,000 year half-life, and they immense power. They lose 50% power in over 5,000 years. They're talking about using them maybe to power pacemakers and space stations or whatever, but hey, put them in cars. All the solutions will be solved, all the problems will be solved straight away there. And I'm rushing because I'm just so excited about this, so passionate, and I think it's very important. And scientists and Bosch are working on, you're talking about all this carbon pollution that's in the air. What about getting it back out of the air? What about negative carbon footprint? Well, they're talking about the fact that they can build these places, and they have done it. Extract the carbon from the CO2 from the atmosphere, combine it with hydrogen, and produce synthetic fuel. So you're doing carbon neutral motoring. Imagine that. You're taking it back from the air, putting it in, and then doing that. So honestly, I think that we really need to think about all of these factors. Electric cars, I accept, are part of the solution. They're not the only solution. There's a lot of other really cool stuff out there, such as diamond batteries and making synthetic fuel out of the air. Come on, guys. There's got to be better ways of doing this.